Going inside the issues of our community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. Over the last 20-25 years, Northern Kentucky has become a dynamic center of growth in the greater Cincinnati region. Part of that success has been a willingness to plan together and collaborate across political lines. In many other situations on the north side of the river, those lines divide and serve as an excuse for inaction. One of the concrete expressions of that spirit was the Quest visioning process a decade ago. Some of you might remember this. Over the past year, Northern Kentucky has undertaken a new visioning process, which has resulted in the publication of Vision 2015. To discuss Vision 2015 and the future of the Northern Kentucky, I am joined this morning by James Votruba, the president of Northern Kentucky University and the co-chair of Vision 2015 process, and Michael Hammons, the president of Forward Quest, the organization that was created in 1996 to implement the Quest vision of Northern Kentucky back a decade ago. Welcome back to Newsmakers in both of you.
It's good to be here, Dan.
Yeah, it's good to be talking about Northern Kentucky and its future. I was saying beforehand, it's important for me, not only because I grew up there, but because the very first Newsmakers show I ever hosted was on the Quest document. So it's really exciting to see what Northern Kentucky has done. One, I want to start with, who is in this planning process right this time? We know, when Cincinnatians think of Northern Kentucky, and I suspect when a lot of Northern Kentuckians think of, they think of the three northern counties. But you're thinking bigger than that, right? What are you thinking of?
Right, Dan. We're thinking of 9 counties. We're thinking of the Ohio River as a connector rather than a divider. If you look at the leadership team of pretty close to 100 people who are involved in setting the overall direction for 2015, you find Cincinnatians and folks from all 9 of our southern tier counties, and every sector, every major sector, financial, civic, government represented.
And we have a map
at different levels too, Dan. You have not only the kind of the usual suspects of well-established leaders who've made their mark in the community, but also we had students and young people, educators, people in nonprofits, people in neighborhood groups also involved in this.
In fact, as I read this, and you can get it online. It is available online. We're now seeing the map of all the counties that are involved, by the way. One of the things that came screaming through to me was generational change. Intentionally bringing in younger people, the legacy group. And Mike, you've been very involved in creating that and bringing those people in. Am I reading this right? Is that really part of the intention here?
Well, Jim can address this more eloquently than I, but yeah, it definitely was an important ingredient to this. This is their future that we're trying to speak to and trying to address. So why not bring them into the development of the plans for the future and also bring them in now in a position where they can actually implement these projects. And you know what, Dan? They not only brought a different perspective that just unique, even in our community, but they also brought a vigor and vitality to this that it mobilized everybody, energized all of us.
There's a variety of areas that are discussed in the plan with vision, with goals, with action steps that are laid out. We can only have time this morning to touch on a few of them. Let's begin with economics, though. One of the things, and all greater Cincinnatians know that Northern Kentucky has been a real economic growth center for the last 20-25 years. But you say in this that Northern Kentucky, and I'm quoting, will reinvent its economy and create new jobs that ensure continued growth. Reinvent the economy. That's pretty strong language.
See, Dan, I think that's our challenge. If you look at what the enormous economic progress over the last 30 years, it's been logistics, it's been transportation, it's been a variety of things that have allowed us to grow 34,000 jobs in the last decade alone. But the economy's changed. It's become much more knowledge-based, much more global, much more a factor of talent and innovation. And in fact, if you look at Vision 2015, I think what's unique about that is that what converges is education strategy as an element of overall economic strategy. So as we move ahead, we're going to look at what we can do to recruit, retain, and develop talent, how we can encourage innovation, and how we can create an entire regional environment that allows us to recruit and retain talent that's going to be necessary to drive the economy. So we're looking at very, very knowledge-intensive growth in knowledge-intensive industries. We're looking at the universities and the colleges aligning their programs to meet those needs.
And I want to explore that a little bit more, but before I get off the pure economics factor, one of the immediate things, which, because this is a planning document looking out in the future, it doesn't address, but one of the things that you're facing is a serious situation at the airport, which has been a real economic center and a driver with Delta, and since Delta owns ComAir, I mean, there's a real threat factor, isn't there, Mike?
Well, there could be. I mean, it's going to be something that we're going to have to adjust to if there's a major change out there. I mean, we've grown as a result of Delta's growth and ComAir's growth, but to just assume that we're going to, have this decline in the number of jobs and the decline in the impact in the community and not be able to make that up. I think what we say in the report is that we're going to have to address that, and we will. And one of the things I think that drove us all through this in terms of building goals around the economy was that we just have to be more aggressive, because this kind of thing could happen anytime. It could happen in 2 years with a different sector in the economy. And we've got to be better prepared, and we've got to be, frankly, a better trained, better educated workforce. That's the main thing.
One of the things about that education piece that you were just talking about, and its connection to the economic piece, is that the study notes that none of the counties in your planning area, in the 9 county planning area, meet national standards in terms of college attainment.
Right.
That actually, I have to say, surprised me a bit that none of them met that. What's going on there, and what are you going to concretely do about changing that?
Well, you're right. 120 counties in Kentucky, 5 of them meet or exceed the national standards in number of percentage of college graduates. Boone, Kenton, and Campbell County are pretty close. The national average is 25 and a fraction. They vary from 22 to 24%. Southern tier counties are much less. We're going to look at every point in the educational continuum. We're going to have to be sure that we recruit and retain outstanding teachers. The Education Committee talked about the importance of math and science, graduating more math and science students, enrichment programs in math and science, core disciplines. A curriculum is characterized by rigor and relevance according to the action team. Those are the kind of things we're going to look at, and we're going to look at a more seamless interaction between educational levels.
One of the things about regional development, any of the real growth regions in the country, a key is not just a good educational system up and down, but a real strong university at the top of that pyramid.
Yes.
Is that where Northern Kentucky is going? Is that, I mean, in effect, in the last 25 years, Northern Kentucky University has been created, and how does that fit into the future?
Well, great question. We will not become, our goal will not be to become another large research-intensive university. We've got access to those places. The University of Cincinnati can be as important a player on the south side of the river as they are on the north side. Excuse me, access to the University of Kentucky, University of Louisville. What we'll do is focus on turning out well-prepared graduates with skill sets that are needed in this region. We turn out more IT graduates today than any other university in the Commonwealth, including UK and U of L. But beyond that, we'll look at commercialization, application and commercialization of intellectual property to help create companies and grow companies. And we're doing that already.
You know, one of the areas that I am just always interested in on this show is the whole question of governance. It's the question of cooperation across lines. I took a jab in the beginning here. That was part of the whole Quest vision, was getting across those lines, getting better at moving and getting some cooperation across governmental fragmentation. There are a lot of cities, a lot of different entities in Northern Kentucky counties. This plan talks about that too. Concretely, what can be done to simplify some of that fragmentation?
Well, I think the idea with the Government Services Commission is to develop a strong knowledge-based or research-based entity in the community that speaks towards that regional dimension of public services. All of our cities and all of our counties are only focused on their own narrow jurisdiction, when many of the services that we expect in our community are really, we want them across the board in the entire region. We want them delivered effectively. We want them to deliver it in a cost-effective way. But there's no organization, no institution that's focused on what are those regional issues or those regional services, and how do we promote that kind of regional dimension. I think the Regional Services Commission could do that, and it'll help the local governments. It'll help them work through issues of funding and limited capacity to perform services that folks need.
There's some talk in here about looking at shared tax receipts and that sort of thing. Any serious talk, I don't see it in the report, about collapsing the number of governments and merging?
You know, I think that there is support among many that we ought to be able to consolidate jurisdictions, but when it comes right down to it, there is a lot at stake, a lot of vested interest in current jurisdictions. People identify with their local communities in northern Kentucky. We made a pretty pragmatic decision. We decided not to distract ourselves with jurisdictional collapsing, but rather to look at services and see where that takes us. Look at police, fire, EMT.
But other places, Lexington and Louisville, both have taken bolder steps in this area.
They have, Dan, but they've had to go through a process to get there. That's the key, I think. You have to kind of go through steps. Yeah, I mean, one of the catalysts, Louisville's been looking at this for 30 years, and one of the catalysts was them waking up one morning and saying we could be the second largest city in Kentucky if we don't do some consolidation, because Lexington was right there with their consolidation, and they were going to become the largest city in the Commonwealth. And that was a catalyst. So these things happen in strange ways, but we think if we can get people thinking regionally across jurisdiction in terms of services, then it's easier to take a next step if it seems warranted.
I have less than a minute, but what role could those southern tier of counties, the counties that a lot of us in north of the Ohio maybe don't know that much about, what role could those counties play?
Well, no, that's a fascinating question. Those counties are thinking of themselves as becoming the recreational hub for this metro area, but certainly for northern Kentucky. They want to expand the Williamstown Lake, substantial expansion. They want to build lodges at Kincaid State Park. They want to use recreation as a driver of their economy, not the only driver, but an important driver. And that makes sense to me because it's going to be easier to recruit people to our region if they have convenient access to recreational opportunities.
Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Congratulations on a new plan, and good luck in implementing it and making it real, because that's where the real work is, right, Mike?
That's right.
That's where it is.
Is that what you've learned? Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Stay tuned. After the break, we stay with Northern Kentucky for a look at the cutting-edge environmentalism through green architecture.
We are getting this much power from the sun. It's going into our building grid, and then we're using that as energy in the building. Where we collect all the rainwater on the roof of the building. And the water is collected here, it goes into the pump house, we do it some filtering, and then we use that to flush toilets.
The new Twin-Hopeful School in Independence, Kentucky features solar energy panels on the roof, a daylighting system that conserves the use of electric lights, an HVA system designed to conserve energy, and a rainwater recycling system. Welcome back. When the topic of energy conservation comes up, most people think first about their cars. But the movement to conserve energy reaches into the design of all the systems we depend upon. The highest standard for sustainable architectural design is a green building rating called LEED, which stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, LEED. The standards for that designation are defined by the United States Green Building Council. Twin Hoefel Middle School is the first building in the region that has attempted to achieve LEED certification. To discuss the development of sustainable architecture, I am joined this morning by Joel Stout, an architect who specializes in sustainable design. Mr. Stout runs his own consulting company, Stout Sustainability. And Robert Lape, the Director of Facilities and District Architect for Kenton County Public Schools. Welcome to Newsmakers.
Thank you.
This is, I was out on Thursday at Twin Hoefel, and it fascinates me. It's just a wonderful facility for schools, for a school, for the students, for the teachers, and it really, you walk into that building and you know you're in a different kind of building, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been designed to really, excite you when you go into the facility.
And excite the students.
And excite the students,
and excite the
primarily,
teachers.
yeah.
Joel, how widespread is this movement?
It's really an emerging movement, but it's very widespread. It's concentrated in areas you might expect it to be, the Pacific Northwest and areas of the Northeast along the coast.
And in fact, we have a map we can put up that shows where there are LEED certified buildings. And so Northwest, East Coast,
Southwest, places where you would expect there to be much higher environmental awareness. But the reason that it's so broad spreading is that a lot of the issues are so much more than about environment. They're about the human condition. And
on that map, you can see, and the map was just up, that Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, this school is new for this whole region. This sets a standard. So how, on a practical level, the implications of this are on an operational level. How much more effective at conserving various types of energy is a LEED certified building?
Well, you have to premise that with how big of an impact buildings have on all of these resources to begin with, which is huge, and the statistics are out there for people to research. But buildings that achieve LEED certification are saving energy in the range of 40% more than a conventional building, and conserving water at 20 to 30% more than conventional buildings.
Conserving water through conserving this rainwater, is that one of the ways?
There are a combination of ways to do things, and the ideal thing is to find synergies between all of the different issues. If you can save rainwater to reduce the stormwater impact, which is a big issue in our area, and use that to flush toilets, you're also saving potable water, which has been purified for us to drink, and yet our society uses it to carry waste.
And in your situation, you're not going to just flush toilets with it, although that was the fun symbol.
Right.
But you're also going to water the playing fields.
Right.
You're going to get yourself as much as possible off that.
Any of the areas that we need to, landscaping, watering outside. So yeah, it'll be.
Now, you've only been open, this school's only been open since January.
Yes.
Have you seen the sorts of savings that you were expecting?
We haven't as yet because we're still finishing the building, but we have a similar building, Kaywood Elementary School, where we have seen 50% savings on our energy cost. And in just a 7-month period, we saved $35,000 in just the heating cost. We will be saving more when we get the lighting system finished in that school. But I expect the same kind of savings at Twin Hoefel.
One of the things at Twin Hoefel that I made note of was that there's this solar panel grid on one of the roofs. How does Synergy, how does the power company that's in the business of selling electric power, how do they look upon something like this? Are you competition?
No, in fact, they were our partner in putting this in because this is a demonstration of clean energy. So they were very supportive and helped us with this system. And actually then it feeds into the grid. This doesn't store into batteries, which then you have to replace and a lot of issues. The energy that's produced goes directly into the grid of the building.
So this is a modern solar panel system.
Yes, absolutely.
Are solar panels something that a lot of LEED buildings are using, and are in other places in the country, are the power companies also supportive?
Actually, Synergy is, and I think we need to say Duke now.
Duke, yes.
Duke actually is one of the rare utilities in the country, with a few exceptions, that is really supportive of this. And they've done a lot in the state of Indiana. A lot of it has to do with what each state offers as incentives or pressures on their utilities. And the state of Ohio has yet to really kind of push the limits there.
Okay. This gets down to all kinds of details. It's not just the big things, HVAC, rainwater retention, solar panels. It gets down to the very materials that you use in the building, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There's so many issues with selecting the right materials. It can be a really perplexing issue for designers who are trying to select the right materials.
What would make something a good material versus a bad material? And we're seeing some of the interior spaces right now of the school. What would make a good wooden cabinet versus another kind of cabinet? What would make a good floor that we're seeing right now?
I'll jump in with mine, and then Robert,
Okay.
you can add what has happened at Twin-Hoffel. But some of the issues are if you're focused on conserving resources, high recycled content of products. And another issue is rapidly renewable materials, which could be using wheat board for cabinets, which is an agricultural waste.
Wheat board, so that these are, in effect, press wheat?
It's press board, but with low VOC adhesive holding the straw together, and using straw, which otherwise have to be landfilled or burned, instead of using wood chips or solid wood.
Robert, what about in your building?
You know, in our flooring, we used a material, linoleum material, that's been around for, probably 50 years. And it's very easy to maintain. And that's one of the issues that we got into, is the maintenance of a building, because we look at all the materials over a life cycle cost. It costs a little more in the first cost, but over the life of the building, it's extremely valuable in saving energy. And the other was the low VOC paints.
What's VOC?
Volatile organic carbons.
Okay. Okay, volatile organic carbons,
Yes.
which means the binding agents
Yes.
that hold this stuff together, right? And they emit
They
vapors?
emit gases. Yes.
They emit gases, so trying to cut
And
that
when you
down.
get into, areas of sick building syndromes, a lot of these things have factored into that, along with, the ventilation system, and that's where we have, really excelled in trying to do a controlled system.
Robert just mentioned cost. How much more expensive is it to build with these kind of standards in the initial construction versus the savings down the road?
Well, there are two important things to distinguish. One is the cost of construction, and the other is the cost of design. Now, design fees are a small percentage of the cost of development, but the studies that are out there have shown that the cost of construction, of developing a higher performance building, a sustainable building, can range all over the place. Some are done at conventional costs or below, which a lot of people don't believe, but it's happening. There are a lot of case studies out there. The average cost for LEED certified buildings, either at the certified level, which is the lowest of 4 levels, or at silver level, those range from below conventional to a little bit above, but they average out around 2% more than conventional construction.
And is that kind of what you found?
We've noticed that, yeah. I mean, but see, with our building, our costs were a little higher because we had an accelerated construction schedule, so we had to be, in the building within a year, so that added to our costs. So I haven't, factored all those out at this point.
Did the board, your school board, did they buy into this? I mean, that was going to be cost up front.
Yes, they were totally behind this, and without a good superintendent and a good board and a good team, you cannot do these kinds of projects.
And we got less than a minute left. Is anybody else looking at this kind of construction locally?
Locally, there's a lot going on. You mentioned that Twin-Hoffel has been it here regionally, but there are over 80 projects registered to be LEED certified in the Cincinnati area. So in our region.
Cincinnati Public Schools is looking at this right now.
Cincinnati Public Schools, and in my neighborhood, Pleasant Ridge Elementary, is going to do.
They're
one,
spending a
so-
lot of money on new schools.
And they've toured our facilities. They've been very interested in what we've done.
And if people want to know more about this, they can Google things like green architecture and get taken to lots of sites.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much for being here. This is really exciting. And thanks for taking the plunge. And thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. We leave you this morning with some thoughts of the Kenton County Superintendent, Susan Cook, about the ultimate importance of Twin Hawful for our community. Have a good week.
Unless we actually grow the generation that will have the passion to be good stewards of our environment, then we're never going to get there. You know, we're just going to continually do what we've always done. And so we know by building this type of facility, by really focusing in and targeting ways to conserve energy and our natural resources in our environment, if we teach the children that that's important, then truly we've got a real chance of living in a world that's really serious about protecting the environment.